Good evening. The throbbing came in the morning with the glowing glass radios, but not with sounds like words. Trouble in the side bureau, danger in smallness. Meanwhile, the bubble is a washout. Shoot back fiddle's very nature, but switch the dial, it's Cal Jader. Girls in different flavors, toughness of the rainbow and miscellaneous floors. And here's the dumbbell to heaven. Put it on my card. Leave it on the house. The doll on the roof. But what is that, sir? I can't make it out. Beyond Mammoth Cave is a lunchroom where the food is made of camphor and no one can see but can chew. Behind the eats are long sticks wet with neglect and a chute of rubberized charcoal to slide by which you get to certain passages, and slots and climbs and tuna fish on breaks, a complete garage of shoe polish where transparent violet cats prowl through. They lead you and you'll see what forms byways to far things or no things. Just view a concatenation of bronze stairways to domes, cellophane fans, and the ubiquitous gallery. This is all so far beyond where I live that I can't fucking believe it. Gold lashes in an aluminum receptacle, a map on which the heart unwinds. By the last fence, I passed a leather board of blown white mist as dumb as your chin. The grease lights of Charlie Chaplin as a shill. To the persons of these rooms, a hooligan, persiflage and clapboards you die to see. Huh? We don't use those words in this house. Swan uses a tobacco cigarette, lady or tiger. When is the flag on that ball going to pop? Thanks for the memories grown in a treetop. A shrink of that basis will not get ahead, only clay pots that drip as deep as you can think it. $1 smell at the sink next door of all time. I read Snow Fury, then read it again, no strain. A calypso with a megaphone not to be missed. Did you see what that elephant wrote? A procession from the Lake of Diamonds to say, the lady's a bit damp, so I'll take up backgammon. Learned from Ray Bremser in Bordentown Reformatory when he stubbed his needle on a Williams album. Let me see how it goes in low voice with a crack and a price list of Rex Barker dolls. Forget the signatures. Time the fun till it balloons. Stop catching the results of the fist. Thought I heard a propane moan, but that was just Jaws behind the hedge. He's looking over eager for somebody's mother or a loosened kitty's slab of balloon, just when nobody's. Jaws is just another name for slip these on, man's charm is broken, the rest is all the way in ocean feels, no good dragging the bottom, or else. This fish, see, grew up among the country's violins. That's the way they get kind of carried away, you know. A copper penny for your lacy returns, a burnt toast labeled hoagie. Eventually, Jaws gets directed by John Singer Sargent. Pictures will never see any of these persons again. Just ask Tippy from Dullsville. No more Sleepy, no more Heart's Breath, no more Jaws. But now, here's these testicles, 10 feet across. Hello, I'm Jack Jerk. I live with Molly Ringwald in a hutch. The streets outside the Barleycone stretch. They burst it all slime down to a point. A golden ginger ale, rock human source. Buy Grotex. It helps your cusp. I always thought a corpse would tell me what to do. Skin pulling its surface moisture. Barbizon sauce. Personality like a peanut. Just need a new parrot and sink a pressure capsule. Grotesque what happens to the lasted soul. A bad mouth, liver pills and short bursts, maybe nothing but shirt and strong daylight. A punk trains his fist on the green monkey. It's Bruce Surtees capturing latent death, stacked along contention lines, black gleamed soul. He's now contented. He saw his wrist, rosy featured Landschaft grass as a pointer. This all comes from one's hand's limited desk. clear before the metal starts flying. I came to the planet in the desert where there are tubes underground, shock tubes, mustard crab, and all the dependable cereals you ever see. The locked Hitler of elevator fame? No. Pour you, lick you, date you, an animal farm in my capital fund zone. Think we can lap ourselves Swanee. The idea was to part myself like hair. Give me a rumble seat and I'll call my double friend. Snow diamond, chevrons on the pole wall. Soon someone will close all your closets. Glub, glub came the sound of goulash breakup, and we're out on the sound. No grist, few tears. I can't forget those burlap-covered signs. The swimmer trips up and goes home. Soon he'll have to stand for everything. Existence is troublesome. The wrong trees go bleak. There are fasteners on the stew. A porch tips up and the grunts come out. The blue of the sky is solved in cement. There are pictures, but not one is solvent. The swimmer rustles in shadow. Nobody wants to hear his strokes. These persons receive when they are due. Now the world has gone and done it. Nothing he thought was true, but parties everywhere under blue glass. No thanks. I'll wait till I get home. The weight of a skull upon his shoulders, a friend of the balloons that trespass on dust, but the swimmer just takes himself off. He reaches an arm. There's something coming, there's nothing. Something's mother released from solid brick, a fire in the closet, chipped nerve rising. You bring a war to the moon place of dust. No holes in this crust. Somebody said, nobody go home to this moon, this place of no room. Political? Not with a wrapped gun barrel and plastered like nobody's business, a bugle, a bonfire, take what you wish to, give nail polish to a bleeder, mock impatience to hold the hill. Shut your face, I mean your eyes. I guess the moon is a mine of sleep. Don't be foolish, a pile of nothing. Just put that tube back in your mouth and fly. Movies used to be about people in rooms. The detectives go in people's houses. Portrait of a palm tree tied to the sea. Mirrors in films don't belong to the same space. Movies show bodies in empty space. What's not inside the machine, that is. All of the letters never work. Stretch of water tacked to the top of the lawn. The police in such places are usually late. Someone looking for something would have to look inside. A strip of lemon across a plastered landscape. There is the story of a man who ran out of ink. People of the same film report great differences. Distances want you to cover them. A photo of a nebula taken through a red veil. The detective shrinks in his own estimation. There was just no end to these interior lands. A man in a costume leans against his costume. The person who looks takes his own portion. One who'll stay in motion with no further mention, an impression of glass against the bent sky. On Earth, it's expected that Barbara Streisand will win the presidency. Not just of the U.S., but of all the bullets in this can. There's a tape machine turning in the fireplace because she has the power of the dead. The thieves came out of a crack in the west wall, but it resulted that they were boobs. The restaurant emptied and somebody whispered, "The cranium trust is missing. Remove your crowns, parishioners, and dance. Your fake books will be emptied directly." See the dinosaurs? They're senators in this stagnant eon. Anybody with ears gets beheaded. Anybody with a pussy called mousy. These boulders fall from no ceiling. Your cheeks will keep curving till who knows. Weapons are as dangerous as maniacs. If you're afraid that you're in danger, there's danger in your sky blue cheaters. Now can you figure out what this ice means? There's a box in the basement containing birds, ones with locks but with nothing inside. Have you viewed this augmentation of our domicile? There are instruments on an ice blue desk. knobs to turn at the first sign of failure. Has the doctor come to your room? There's too much glass on the stairway. I thought I'd see something if I got close to you. Barely the inhabitants turn and show their throats. The birds too watch, though sore or deceased. A brainstorm should remove any blockage. Is your name Dixon? Is this a reformatory? But anything can happen in rooms like these. Results have hatched in much dimmer scenes. Let's hope Monsieur Hendricks comes back immediately. Let's hope his first gift will be a tree. My back was only in fun. The nerves have played away. The people interested are gone. A new one's on its way. Is there trouble at the icicle farm? Big loaded arms of people depending. Sheerest blue walls that won't stay. I'd better go northern in case. No top on the weather. Disaster days. Infinitum as a nosegay plans to stump the Framus arrested on trouble. Whole golden hours you'll be missing. This world, they found, is made of papers. You take the 6 bus to the moon. From there, keep following the bends to the site where the letter Q was born. Is this, my friend, the column? Is this the piece my brother wrote? It ended on a jarring note, but who would it be harming? Who can explain the fascination with the words of the sundog, and at what a cost? Nothing to do, nothing to say, nothing to see. The walls, they are written blind. The man in the streets runs repeating. Now all the screens are in parallel. We'll never overcome our country's vitriol. The finished rows of hatred are coming. You're going to have to look at what I'm writing. Your boat is ready, sir. Jerk the handle. No end to what this work will bring. In the libraries there are wallets, and in those wallets the treasures of subsidy. What more can you take off the walls? You may find that Osborne is the real name of Zontar the Invincible. You may find the truth in fragments. Later the Caspian Sea, a low rental area. But surely long ones are tiresome. And suddenly the whole collection is missing. Shots of persons entering doors and everything. Put back those doors once they've been shuffled. The time is up for additional sockets. Once your fascinations have been installed, Excelsior leaks out, timings slip, the hill road leaves behind the map case, glugs glug, and then we question you. Which story is more important, the Loge or the landing? I papered my legend with cataracts. No one yet found to sign for such a treasury, but all uphill grinds lead to the library. Window, water, maybe movie, the zero and everyone's final sum, the river to Rivertown, no match for the portal oval of a night. There were candles in her dome, mine too, a toothbrush, a star shell burst, and the boulders ended town. I would like to have sung like the Beach Boys, if only purely Dakota, a black quartz hum. Clean it all out for us, please. The banners of perfection hang in our days. In haste, one bedroom over never care. A blonde waits under your Easter tree where the recording bob is smashed when the outsides of all closets shine. In this case, an orb larger than anyone's possible concerns dips its bulbs in the sun, puts down a meat case in Dutch. This is death as such. Then coming down to Sidborough where it browns. Excuse me, I gotta make a brain run. The nectar dripping down the robot's leg. The man on the slab is a mind king with straps. Novel features, pressed dialogue, typical core. My name is Eunice, an infinite name of measure. You could see the paranoia on the screen. I can still hear him crying into the machine. Top of skull missing, the molecules to follow. This is membrane memory, all a twitch. Comb your hair, it's bleeding all over. A shoe that holds the door open in your mind alone. The man to be left fumbling with particles. Portrait of a backside of the place you just mentioned. A metered existence, hologram in the wind. The mad scientist, a violinist named Paul. In Kentucky, they prize yoo-hoos. The people dining out for a terrible mural of blue toes. You know what's behind your eyes? A water bubble full of suspended pins. So that, like I told you, nobody wins. Take a viable puff on this old mill wake. You'll see its dolmens start to free, the indulgence to see a carburetor. Watch this living room scene. There are drapes on all the participants, lucky beneficiaries of true red light. A parking lot with gold in it says Sailor Sam. Are you a ghost? Red rims and the dreadful steady peeking out of eyes. From a steam fitter's loaf, golems need apply. Meanwhile, back at the living room forest, I see it out beneath her extended neck, pondering space. And let's not be too sure. Eventually, a certain glubbing comes in sight. You better not get caught violet in the pilot light. Live to tell about it lays it down. Lazy image, and they got him. Lost between the long partitions, the most high master, a twister of toes. Are you thinking traffic overlays? Veins on the inside of the mask retain the thoroughness through which the plan is carried. I'll string along and dump a phoneme or two, grease the way to heaven, though that vault is closed. The creationist graduates from Purdue to make up for missing fingers, folded space, a gap in the beadwork. I'll stay the course till the gladiators milk it some more by speeding it up a bit. Don't forget to store your magic glance. They'll light the can under your mosquitoes. Now where is your history of the Karamazovs? Kielbasa was a stick insect in front of this little tin government we had out back, the wampum of a creosote Gildersleeve rampant. You could see it all dripping down the masts and nests of careful tobacco on the Sound. We felt we had many days, and the fleece boats would soar return. But this is a bumfuck way of knowledge. Bob Dylan sees the numbers running by down his arm, an impunity counter and wrist flex support. Feeling better now that I know, opting for a whole world from the stage, standing till it's all spoken, way back in the folk mind, a prisoner of Forest Hills. I am not understood by the camera, but after all, this is a room full of tongues. And my songs are building vehicles, assuming our father was Frankenstein, but our ruler leads from a parlor. So how does the extreme street look and work? Does it lock all our Halloweens down, basement followers in the guise of victims? I saw Dylan in the hallway consulting, but not wavering, the skull loose from its dust. Must be an adverb built from nothing. I have to say, I took you for certain. The card piece was nailed to the head wall. The dreadful man was my tiny offspring, in a living room hollow with winter tuskers. A gourmand, I'll be a weight thrower, a puppy tied at the toe. Bracer was the name on the tape. Velasco, the turret covered in chocolate, a toilet. Your forebears missed with their paler brains, all gone home from somebody, I hope. Nobody have any further business here, please. Be sure to weight your end with ink. You'll triple its trusted values, not so sod. The plasters slid back in their throes, the lore of pirates to a fault. But this, Serge Choloff, blows nothing but waltzes. Mel, the eyes, Torme, wired warrior, but generally certain person, flaunts a Paris green stain, plus a rock and instant roll-off. Charivario, wicks go up enhanced. I'll take off my billfold if you read my resume. Just lie back in the tank and titter. La Vie en Rose penciled across the Mojave. I had a suit made of worsted, found deep in the palladium mines. Read her like a vagina. Wanda Hinckley's Night of Diamond Drills. When somebody's gone weird in the kitchen, you bubble down to the Antipodes, like the monks all go to New Edwards Land. Brain fatigue showing first on the tongue. The rest is just Paris, where only one light bulb. You'd imagine the poets would wash their hands, or at least pause as such, and master the boat trick. I remember a night the color of candy, in the dark behind the medicine box. Somebody else must have stolen the clarity. I mixed things up right to the edge. The time to think has gone, come away with a cloudy address. Hawkeye was my name when the clouds were chimney pullers. I would rest level with the grass. Then downtown were the trains. I could try to have myself surprised at the floor to face and fear we are these people at the temple of the persons with blows. And so it's probable that everything will go away. Anteaters with onyx claws and everything. Meanwhile, the sun comes into Union Station. The environ's so quiet, we pick ourselves, even in rows. So isn't it possible we chose a wrong-headed stability for success, playing with a knock on us for what? The architectural farm of a woman strained, her name also taken high as a chance wind will, Bunky. Box windows and gauze of twig, you bet. Life in a car as full as you are, Eeyore. A load in the night made of chain, drears and a houndstooth of a gathered hearing, devoted Megillah, a place to see, your own private moon presented, gallivanted, bewitched in books. Are you good, Freddie? Atrocious what the hand comes up with, a skyway belt, the plow beneath the waves, Orion the sailor brought home from sheer will. The center of that opera is a wheel, and now the nails are drawing closer. And the water, Charlie, well, there's nothing fuller. Mario Noun, the petter, on Optimum Hill, conglomerate of a million candy bars. A house with no back but a political companionway. Humans need their byways. Now the titular straggler comes looming. A gas in case you think you know. I think what's needed is a dawn handler, a girl with no front on a car, at no slant to go over all the hoverings, a fault that waits and times the wait. Scored with that candy, did you not? It's fine, the road clears, the charts tint, it comes up folding time, a blossom in a chair. You'll need to wait for the humans to mate, the rimrocks to bleed what you most oppose, a whole midway of breeders. Squeeze that pear in a tin, cool yourself on a whim. The riffs from here will be all glory, soft like Lester, but missing a thumb. Why don't we step out where the marble's a sheer gut, a white tile weeps for? I've had enough hallway, try meat drop spine made of tungsten. I am the goal man, if I see the gray houses on Grayness Place. Corner of Dienstag fog and plasma-strewn aftermath. Nobody's that ducky then. My ghost came home, stoked me, timing of bulky weapons the dreamers stand. You know my math? I'm a green imitation. They say he's a demon with his canvases. Gangsters that pop a stone, hawk a louis. Gold is phlegm in my mist of kingdoms. A folded or inflated gauze you breathe, and know the monkeys of AIDS in the 30s, long before Gene Shepard and the Excelsior Gonifs. Such pride leaves you hollow, dead, but it's all moving. There's a tumbler full of mayonnaise, a blossom you'll win with, telltale turntable, the wires are missing. Dr. Salamander loses his lock on a whole world of tapioca. Arnie Sullivan thinks of nothing. The ball waits till there's a sluice to reach. Mamba Sinatra leans over her wastebasket. There are tiny fishes that never see the forest. Turbo waits, has a mental face. There are bubbles washing their various aspects, and the growth factor keeps us feeding. Anonymous Jones likes rocks to keep, the spinach he can't stand down. The albino creeps are stirring, the patches handle Baldo Jane's attitude. A political hole in the ozone is all. Radical Ben Shoes shoots his zips to the top. But the gallivanters join in. Billy Worktable asks, then bows. The dust boys ride into trouble. Stubborn as raw interminability, won't we all blow stacks one day? Poker stump feels pinched. The Lake Sisters fall sorely behind. The humans shoot up to world pitch, but this isn't the half. I surrender to the smell of my father's back and the desert flats of gas station. And ever after I followed a pistol into towns of blue boards and rimfire excuses. The inhabitants, following a script for horses, said Jack Quarto, a pistolero there was no room for. The ones he'd meet, no more beads to be taken on, or exclusive walls, a card game under his clothes. This misguided rider who ended up squinted on braced rails and apple sundry in a town called Mowbray. Dirt sides caked with silence, plenty slender. He'd do a little dancing with those cattle ankles. Drop it and skip to the loo with chalk in his veins. A clock on the facing wall, a mirror on Verso, the next town but a few in a pensioner's view. Better drop that cactus by the gold hole reputed bare. Shed those notches in a chair scored as a placer. This town could be ruled by a Beckham. This blackguard made off with a bad address, meddlesome and rattled by the basin with the water coming. The sheriff, in dread of a reckoning, got that dead man's glow all over, but nothing in this cramped town is over, not even these horses, and they're doctored. The program ended in time with English Stan and the oncologist steam band, and numerous sitters in from the Dream Fitters Union, restless in their fossils and spitting hard. It couldn't have been more than half a hand, till the lights swung back and we left a croquet suite and 3 febrile ditties. They nearly had the house for it. Too bad we missed the Caramel Hat Band, 2 jollies from Surrey, and Carmichael Hoagie, the merely louder one. Let's forget about the bacillus sellers. They're too carbon broken anyway. Leaning against forget about the youth of a life does both. I think I'll go get Mickey Nougat a stove, a few little chaws in between this long shot and this leery twin. There's no more store for what I need. A bone-dry place to live at best, a promise of what lies beneath, mere shell of Bluto's former role, the architect of everything beyond the nose. Go by the Milky Way, I don't care. Same neighborhood as the load barn and love it. Stipulate, overrate, calibrate, for heaven's sake. I've been sleeping under too many stars. The bridge partners were set up across waters. You couldn't request a reset button. Grabbed your clothes, I recall, stealing grass. You clean up after this century of mess. And still it comes down to the babies. Then it shot down the wire. The dragon had failed. Have you cordoned off all bleach products? This model guitar leaves a lemon impression, but I saw more than snow there, really. The burst queen usurps miles of competition. Somebody's about to walk in and waste all these motherfuckers. The Baby by John Barth isn't quite, only optical maybe in total hallway. The rig and its pluses. I live in a stucco leak through the floor. A knife in the way of an almost dismal. The red body might bleed out of an afternoon. Roland Kirk speaks blackness, a perishable scar. Could believe in war if only you'd stop that funnel trouble because of the case on the burps. And outside a yellow page asks us to stop. Ornette at the spot crest holding pictures taken of what's been mustered, nothing but neighborhood students, and a flak hole never to be settled in this stirring universe. You have to take a shit in outer space to understand just how finicky the universe is. Somewhere there are bartenders who know. Do you? I don't. I lose too many rocks. Now it's launch time. What are things wrapped up in? Pull over and watch my tape recorder, la 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 la. We'll get back to saucers later. I heard one sound off, another dozen. Put a cover on it. This space of loose tubes walks between pipes in a melodic zoo factory you forgot to turn off. Everything goes up behind this plain clapboard housing. Simple till the shapes are gone. General Ankrum concurring. Let's have dinner on an inconclusive object. Out behind the Star Barn, not much left to lose. Then let's have coffee in Ernie's empty room, chalked in space for everyone. Strange thing. Excuse me, now I must burn all my plans. Gobble, gobble, the use of walkers in offices. bubbles around pins, generals knowing little. Space weakens but snaps back, soil in our hands. Have you anything else to speak? Pawtucket. The space I've been talking about moves in with you. No final assumptions drill out those propellers. A gun out of wax makes a certain smell. I fought the war and the war won. The cat was sick and the doors were closed. The wall had spoken over all at last. The lights went out in the coarse cafe. Well, what, no doubt, is it all about to say? I dislike dressing on trains. That's for fools. It's my name on the wall to believe, an embossed S on the car to hell. Can you pretend we live nearby? Here, a race of gobblers that sing. Just a touch, mirrors tweak where the mountains sit in state over our canker walls. Inhabitants between, with the very plugs they chewed. Change the channel to vitamin daylight. Click on match plan. By the way, they say the elephant's trunk is out of practice. I'll never get back to Bangladesh. In red dirt, a banjo on my knee. Just try to read whatever works together. The amphitheater doing double as one drawn breath over all the brain surveys. Figures fucking in a maelstrom of clarity. But there's little enough to it, isn't there? Face drawn on a pile of skin. Foghorn voice and being. The one who moves you to stop dreaming. I didn't see what fear could bring to the fuzzy nations. The copper upper deck with pyramids naturally. Jungle a few steps from the frozen Buddha. A postlude now, a green rope to the postal neck, puffs upon his bone, tests her handles, a nursery backlot with blacklight options. No one is bothered about as far out as meat latch. A tuber, the inscriptions on a marble holster. Bubble trouble, the tunnel will save you from. A dare on the darkling plain, not scuba gruesome. The picture tells you it's curving time. So tell me about the searchlight. Does it match the cortex? The dealing of the members not practicing. The tambourine flinch is a killer with a fuse. In full sun, a makeup of dreams. A lot to find. What scares in doubles as it clings to a brought clear crystal door. To clean the hallucination, make marks on it. Names the marble hoist, tumbles to the meat deck. Collides in larval fun, the plugs are missing from. Its jewelry shock turns sniffles into rivers where the catch is still in place and we point and the holder is lost and the quivers take waters and don them for paints like creatures use. So scream off own head, weird and can't get out. A purple stick so personal, the bad movie, my one and only. Heart attack, mealtime, the link. Meditative purse wipe, stop before you think again. A friend so far from the door. But wait, are you my name? The apostle on Trembler's feet, step back in shadow, sign off on the outline. The party's in Fresno, I'm not going. The weakness of a paper roll, and no hands, please. I'd be glad to shop you out. Money meal crushed flat, you wear it on your bundled head, then slap and disturb yourself. Coastal always more coastal. We need the silence of oxygen. You say it's a mumbler's fuel, rather space around the eyeball, the skull an empty tool. Let's see where the opprobrium resides. Okay, register doll? I peeked through the crack, saw a coach and some trees, his trees. The pockets, I assume, hold wallets. Nay, offended. These folks ought to brush their roots. Hiring some eventuals in peerless rows. Is that sing-song seeping from the breakfast ducts? Not much defends itself against random sights. I saw the doctors arriving, but they wouldn't tell. The closet had closed in on one party. Here's a house hollowed out by the Beatles. On pendulum visits, elbows on corners, so plugged in it won't relent, draws fire. Now I'm far from the office and hills of weakness. Wobbled for a minute, I hid in a gully. Too many witnesses thus washed out, but I get along. Tomorrow this street belongs to the past, harboring tons with little to say, stretched on wooden models and tapiocas of time. Till soon I shut my door and start to grind. The history of a road worth its weight in bog iron. Next we'll be stuck with a Shelver rose, keen mind of barium waiting on the switch. A torment of these baited hours, striding to the dull nothing but. A bunch of poor hats and their consequences. Rapid on a drumhead, a rhesus horse. You see this house moving through his picture frames. I best write slower in long pants or use forceps, but I take Blaise Cendrars as far as that sherbet wall, then duck back because Kesey's ambling there. Says, step in here and I'll obligate you. Just ducking overweighted with triangles and turn on the scope and he's burled in Earl. Take note of these bevel dancers, late to the nod, apparel shades differ a bubble in mind, or worse, let's cable downstairs a foible. Mrs. O'Saddle, I felt sorry, but it was for naught. A bottle or two and we're off. But there's always the threat of that awful violet light that chip off the old ruby knot. I'll be there in the green room when many tom-toms land. Jean Krupa maybe in mufti. It's been hard at the track with the sniff, but we learned to brace for God, just to cut above banging shut nation. In the fists, the fleets of a fine stain noted there, flams in plain sight and combustible rolls. The parrot threw a rod, the populace teemed, little boxy naphtha lights hung thready among the days when all the gold went silver, all the way down to palladium in a scant hand. But now the hole's steaming up special and haul, quick, make a duck, they'll see you. Cable cased in peppermint stacking. The theme is roses on platinum rods, tumbling to a dearth of numbers. Skies the added, ash salts the sealer. You can handle anything if it's treble enough. Marriage or a sundown venting of everything, all out stone on the pot that whistles. They'll give you a red stick caning for a storing of all the noble waters there are. It's these rotten churches in my head are driving me to find the chain syllabus of a livelihood. Maybe I'll sit by the pond and lob me a skull. Had enough to feel? I'm slow to ask myself, is the time winding down around my domicile? Who abducted the wax fingerings behind my kitchen door? Chained up to a plate of pork and brains. These syllables are for good and take place, raise a stench right up to the flooring barn. Place of ingredients and salted bottles, no butter, but pink plastic flames complete my nose collection. They call me Rainhead by the stove. They call me Winton while the cash register cools. Maybe soon I'll have to go live in the short shack, making mustards of the leftover light in the woods. What will they say of me when I drain? Wet ropes that lead to my buried belfry. Got to find more room for the holes in my sores. Now it's whispering season in the cold room. There are nothing but pickles. Now what's with that face and the old blood shed? Come on, mother, you got yours. Where's my death? Red nougat, born the morning of molten sugar, in cans and on damp lapels, born knowing thing from thing the thing means, and subsequent sweet exhaust. Red nougat, apparent and on the rise, red nougat, who fashioned his first sex from feldspar found easily out back. A crowd then gathers around red nougat. They spy him continual from tops of trees and bloody steeple squares. Red nougat points out the carrot tops, towheads, and spits, long and glistening for anyone listening. Red's no ape, but swings through the vasts. He covers your face, your walls, your floor, and wouldn't you know, he'll do more. This tricolor flies over but stands for no monkey shines. Even these sitting places will roll. Then comes in Michael Rennie as shooter. Meanwhile, a fencelessness held up the robberies. That and a copy of the Vita Nuova left on an airliner, with a small assist from one of the Fox boys. The police projectionist's name is Piaget. There is nothing by mistake. Push the whistle, don't blow it. There's nothing more cozy. Watch the jackal by a melon. Hang it up and stroke it till it sways. Now we go underground for the rest, outside the scope of all foreign offices, just till everything moves above the head. They say he's the sweeper, and pretty soon he goes, the trick being to get his hair dyed, the exact shade as it had never been. Then he can just reverse nozzles again and again until everyone gives up. Possibly he ghosted for someone, Whatever sails at dusk must be treated with a certain amount of trust, plus a dash of brazen leaping. But now they say he looks just right, a future Superman in disguise. No one will ever see his eyes. Because I caught the beast rowing, that's why. The submarine had leaked from blind air holes. The storm aimers similarly failed to act. A stretch from balanced palace, this planet has never known Wagner or Hopalong either. Sedimentary strata or a clear lack of Lincoln logs. There were the usual popular pressures, lungs that would go well with your skeleton. Flights off the rack, propellers from Hackensack. I didn't pop it, but somebody usefully did. Scoured the neighborhood, turned up nada. Dennis Hopper lights the candles of a cad. Walled off in habitude, the tungsten depending. Why write so many words when sleep would come? Here in distance palace, the strain of engines firing, pommy bastard probably savage his own declensions. But this is a plane without stoplights. The patient people all in rows, not far from the brain room, a diamond window. We're all very sorry. The scribble is spoiled. The drawers of that are locked and no reply. The hardware had drained so long there was little hope. But I could have been coming here because of the eyes, ones I cut out and boxed and plumb forgot to play. These overly obedient cartons, will nobody load them back? The lights come on in a horizontal lobotomy as the immortal Spike steps to the fuzz at the front, honking in risible beauty. And the vaudeville cognates tremble. Tell that midget to tie his shoe. Hold that pinky tuba over a day. These items live in the buried stages and record emporia and record emporia of my dreams, planted in darkness and basement tape, of a radio anciency, if a mad hesitancy, like fresh holes in the wood. The smell of the high school in the backyard is sundown, always, and later a precinct house of yellow brick and late yelling. I will take up your case in the office, said this superimposing street tailor, stubber of nicotine feet and revenant. Saw the exact tree he was born near, sponge of the imagination, mercuric bum, steer, stopping things, the world's rotation, numb until the vehicle docks. You think this fucking world is a firm world? Only partial in my only system, afraid of spoiling the sweet walnuts, the slips made out of breadcrumbs, that book shack on Potrero Hill, those words that come with the tongue. Is that an apartment tree or an apparatus tree? Or is it merely the article plant? Smitten with things corrosive, I remain, tricky watcher dining with human paw, also leaning on a pair of raw straps, stunts personally endowed with grips, enters the Stanchill building, camps entirely on a pair of such things, outgrowths of my performance husband. Or is this your ordinary greasewood arena? Next is mentioned a Corso made of onyx, pesty little bleeder, or clockwork spider, hops from mister to mister, keeps whatever you have in holster, bastard. But he lives in bed with a fine old bracer of dirt balls that are better than medicine. Now don't forget, there are frogs in the interior. And do you know Daddy won't buy me a Bow Wow? No, not really, but if you hum me a few bars. 1956. Believe I used to ride around in those cars? But the door slams sound good and cool. Possibly also our relatives, family fates. Across the street, practice in place. Kevin is a basement MD, no relation to replacement awfulness. Try breakfast flakes? No, I didn't come from that past. I miss being replaced since I didn't go to camp. They say there's no emotion in my business. The way tug names are spelled crystalline, vast, and unsympathetic, our world for lease. Coach, so send me in around death, who grew up around the form of Carolyn Jones. Is there a cut to the body of change? a handle on things not me, light on the ceiling beams, a form to the shadows, removes his girl from the middle of the night, oral mementos by Carmen Dragon. Let's go on from the atom to its universe, but someday my tense will come. What's driving me away from my kitchen shelf? Rocks, dry lapels. Did we spend too much time in arbors? False voices from a burning pod cry havoc. The era ends in foams, a very wet formation. A spaceship that left the Earth with everybody returns with nobody. What's the deal? An alpaca lumberjacket bumps in the star breeze, dubbing whatever is still there everybody's business. The killer lived in a bell jar, flowers crushed. The key to the mystery of someone's hair. Should they still have it? I mean, wrap it with something warm to one of the planet's two suns. The other one kept in the dark for emergencies. Pluto in his barn winks for his treats. This could be the Ohio of William H. Macy. The whole race thought they'd seen enough of this. Ship full of distressed persons leaves consciousness. Another race is left wondering about the jacket. Everyone there had a guest basement. They had to, plus the odor of a blanket straight from God. Meanwhile, the ship, like a blossom, penetrates space. In the abandoned hold, a tiny black disk revolves in silence. Rattlesnake found hiding in woman's vagina. Man's penis hidden in airplane hangar. So many things have been impossible since. Skateboard thief tampered with Kissinger's medicines. Throttle thrown on a tree trunk, the bees kept. Costs shoot up on the perennial Benny. You could have hired a proctor twice as cheap, and even the darkness grows dear. Ovarian cattle assaulted by John Turturro. Flights of spare parts crowd the major runways. The normal becomes an expensive habit, prized among the morning fortunate. You'll have to stay loaded on what rules. There's too much longing, width, height, deeps, thoughts and throats, sudden oceans open to the melee. Was that your friend Roger, a victim of hotbox? Keys to the national itch found nailed to a rabbit doll, and here come those snakes again. Eggs as big as ostriches roll to store level. Have you seen your doctor lately? Parkinson particles, philately, easily copied, therefore busted. Parents baffled at home, you can see their wings. Crystal wines on broad palettes. Tiny flyers draw their essence. Corpses made up for show. Hit the floor at 5. The nation's leaking. The person's leaning, their fragments gleaming. The end of this, not even close to brimming. I caught a potato once. It called aloud in the sunset at the rage of the new paper teeth. The man with a gun, a cannon, they say, wants to wipe out fallacy with stealth in so many calibers. Nice rug, Jim. A mammoth criminal is in the road. It's the president, and he lives. Raven will have to sell that hash. He might even have to lurk to a finish. Guns downs and blazes are the standard, hardly the sugar that comes in canes. Trains himself to recognize the signs. The president's rash is game with bones. Big man resting on a cuspidor. Nothing more respectable than a gun. He has one in his basement wallet. Slides through rooms with trench coat ease. Now the password is Pepsodent Bush. He'll have to make a move in the parlor car. Yipes, this gun's seen too many pillows. The president, too many sweets. Shoes outside the door, tension on the springs. The man's a baby-faced killer and he stings. You better talk sunshine at taking the air. Now the president's ghost is there. Take a short break and come back with another set.